As many of you know, I love scary games. And 2014 was a great year for horror games. It was a year of promising new titles, unpredictable twists and turns, and super scary moments. Hey, wait a minute. Alright, so it was really a year of overhyped indie games and mismarketed spookfests. But underneath the rubble, there were actually a few decent horror releases, even ones not containing a yellow bear. Here are the 5 that I loved the most. Into the Gloom is a pixelated horror game that's only about an hour long, but then again, it's only $3. The game has some pretty interesting puzzles, features some really vibrant environments, and achieves a sense of immersion that completely eludes games with much higher graphical capabilities. Not naming any names or anything! Evil within! So I got pretty scared while playing Into the Gloom. The game's pixelation actually plays a big part in its atmosphere. Your mind has more room to imagine what's there, and most of the time, anything you end up imagining is going to be scarier than what a game inevitably shows you. A lot of games lose their scare factor when you see the monster in full detail. Even though you end up seeing the monster in Into the Gloom, there's enough left to the imagination in the game that it preserves a great sense of dread. Also, I have 2 things to say. Oogie Boogie and Oh Really Owl. You'll see what I mean. No matter what you think about this game, whether it's scary or not, whether it's original or not, whether it's overrated or not, Five Nights at Freddy's was far and away the most popular horror release of the year. You play as the night guard of a pizza place who has to survive 5 nights while being constantly assaulted by animatronics. The place is called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, loosely based on Chuck E. Cheese's. I always thought those things were terrifying as a kid. The game spawned a phenomenon. Since its release in August, the game and its sequel have stayed in the top 10 paid apps list on the iTunes Store. The only other paid app with that longevity is Minecraft Pocket Edition. But this isn't about Five Nights at Freddy's rampant success. I think it's actually a solid game. Is it the scariest game of the year? No. Is it the scariest game of all time? Not even close. But the gameplay is intense, the animatronics are cool looking, and it even has some decent atmosphere. The sequel quickens the pace to a fault, but the first game still has that delicious sense of dread to it. Because you're stuck in your office, waiting for animal robots to come murder you, just awaiting your inevitable demise. It's a pretty stark contrast to the other games this year in which you were allowed to just run away from danger whenever it popped up. A lot of people think Five Nights at Freddy's is just view bait for YouTubers, which I don't really understand. I agree that the fad is a little out of control, and it's bigger than the Slender reaction video fad of 2012 ever was, but if you flip things around and Five Nights at Freddy's never took off, this would be the game heralded by many as a hidden indie gem. Behind the rabid fandom and obnoxious Let's Plays is a decent, original, atmospheric game, and that's why it's number 4 on the list. Alien Isolation is the game that Alien fans have been waiting for years. After the game we do not speak of put everyone in a bad mood for a while. But this one... yeah, this is Alien done right. You play as Ripley's daughter in a story that takes place between the first and second movie. The first half of the game feels a lot like the first Alien movie. Creative Assembly really did a knockout job with the futuristic retro feel throughout the game. Oh man, we're on a spaceship with CRT monitors. Hey, wait, this equipment looks pretty old. Does this thing have Snake on it? The main reason to play this game is to experience what it's like to be hunted by a xenomorph. The game does a fantastic job with this. The xenomorph's AI is the best I've seen of any horror game monster, even more unpredictable than the enemies in Outlast. He falls out of the ceiling, he crawls through vents, he looks for you at lockers, he changes direction at the last second. Gah! The game isn't perfect. It's about 5 hours too long, features a crafting system as its main source of gameplay, and sometimes overplays the feeling of getting through by the skin of your teeth. Overall though, it's carried by the fascinatingly detailed main antagonist. If only every AAA horror game were this good. So I realized this is a DLC release, which is why I had to title the video Top 5 Horror Releases instead of Top 5 Horror Games. That technicality aside, this is how you do DLC. Are you paying attention, big corporations? This is how you do it. Whistleblower has about 3 hours of gameplay with some really memorable scenes and some enemies that are scarier than anything in the original. It's a kinda sorta prequel to Outlast in that it expands on the storyline of the original and allows you to play as the Whistleblower, who originally summoned Miles to come to Mount Massive. It does a great job of connecting with the base game and creating a holistic storyline. I absolutely love that Red Barrels just straight up doesn't give a fuck. I mean, you're in this game for 2 seconds and they're like, oh hey, here's some naked dude Kali-maing this other guy. You were in this locker 2 seconds ago, huh? I'm gonna check it. And I'm gonna straight up castrate you. Red Barrels does a lot of things with Outlast Whistleblower that you wouldn't see in pretty much any other horror game, though some imitators tried very hard to overwhelm you with shock value too. Overall, this is probably the best DLC I've ever played, for any game. Ever. It's a non-stop roller coaster ride with a great sense of production value and some genuinely disturbing moments. It's basically a AAA quality indie game. Highly recommended. Another reason why I had to name it Top 5 Horror Releases, because this isn't a full-length game, it's a demo for the upcoming Silent Hills. The demo is one looping hallway. That's it. This is the whole game, but there are some really great things that happen to you in this hallway. There are scares around every corner in this thing, and while the developer said it's not representative of the final game, I really hope that they're able to preserve the incredible atmosphere and on-point tension that they created in this demo. Beyond all my praise for the gameplay, this is the most creative advertisement for a game I've ever seen. I actually can't believe they did this. I mean, they just threw this thing up in the PlayStation 4 store and were like, yeah, we're an indie studio no one's ever heard of. Download this game with a nondescript title and try to beat it even though it has seemingly vacuous gameplay. I mean, what an utterly ballsy move. They could have easily just created disinterest and ended up with no one unlocking the ending. But I love that they did it. The reveal gave me chills, seriously. It's the first time a game's done that to me in a long time. I just have to give the PT demo the #1 spot on my list. It scared me the most, it impressed me the most, and it's the most creative thing that's happened to horror games in a long time. Well, there you have it, my top 5 horror releases of 2014. Let me know what you think in the comments section, like, what's your top 5? Maybe you've been really impressed by a game this year that I just missed out on. Also, let me know what you think about this video, because this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, and I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. And if you enjoyed it, like the crap out of it, and share it with anyone you know who likes horror games. I'll see you guys later. Think critically. As many of you know, I love horror games. It's really hard not to say horror games. I love horror games, as many of you know. That's not a genre. Wish it was. I love scary games! As many of you know, I love scary games. And that is the last take. That is the last time I am saying those words ever again. My top 5 horror releases. Why does it sound like I'm saying 8,000 R's? My top 5 horror releases. Horror releases. The Evil Within!